President Trump, of course, has kickstarted the tax debate. He is saying that he wants to slash the corporate tax rate from about 39%. In your book, you note about the lobbying effort going on about the corporate
Man,
tax
those guys
rate.
are like swarms. They move through, because they want those tax cuts.
You write in your book, what all those executives and corporate suck-ups fail to mention is that after all the deductions, exceptions, and exemptions and credits, the average corporation's tax rate is about 20%. You then go on, Senator, to write that the U.S. corporate tax rate is in the bottom 25% of the world, behind Japan, Canada, and some other countries, and the UK. Should lawmakers, should Republicans, should Democrats vote to lower the corporate tax rate?
So my view is the giants have plenty of tax breaks as it is. I also talk about in the book how effectively many of them are taking home billions in profits and paying nothing in taxes. But there's
Boeing and Verizon.
That's right. But they have the larger issue. You know, a generation ago, corporations paid about 30% of all the money it took to keep the federal government running. Today, it's under 10%. But here's the big difference that tilts the playing field. The guys at the top pay less and less. As you said, often, I talk about it in the book, in the single digits, even zero in taxes. While small businesses, medium-sized businesses, businesses that can't hide money in the Cayman Islands or move their intellectual property to someplace in Europe, they pay full freight.
So with corporate inversions, though, because the Republicans are going to argue, well, if you keep the corporate tax rate at a certain rate and you don't lower it, then you're incentivizing businesses to go overseas, so you don't buy that
That's
argument.
like saying, hey, look, we have left open a loophole for the giants to be able to evade taxes here in the United States. So let's lower the tax rate so they won't use the loophole. No. How about if we ask everybody to pay a fair share? And everybody includes the giants, the folks who do hire the army of lobbyists and army of lawyers, because we need a progressive tax system so that we actually have the revenues to put into both investing in America's families and putting this country on sound financial footing.
The book is called This Fight Is Our Fight. I want to talk about a fight you had in 2013 against bank lobbyists over the budget deal and the swaps provision, the high risky trading. And it ultimately led to what I would describe as one of your most famous floor speeches in your time in the Senate. And I want to pull that portion because you say, after going toe-to-toe with Jamie Dimon in a calling senators, including Democrats, as well as now former President Obama, you say, on the floor of the Senate, you said, let me say this to anyone who is listening at Citi, which of course was the dominant group backing that provision. I agree with you, Dodd-Frank isn't perfect. It should have broken you into pieces.
Yes.
Now, how disappointed were you with the Obama White House at the way that all went down? Because I remember covering it. You write about the reporters chasing after you in the hallway.
Right. No, what was so frustrating about this particular provision was that it was designed to drive up risk and to drive up profits for just a handful of mega giant banks. And ultimately, the impact of this provision that lobbyists wrote and managed to get into the bill right at the last minute, it had never been through a hearing in the Senate, managed to get it in right at the last minute, the lobbyists write it, and ultimately permitted big financial institutions to bring about $10 trillion worth of risky investments right onto their balance sheets, guaranteed by the U.S. taxpayer.
This matters because it's the identity of the Democratic Party. Because you write in this book, Democrats had no stomach for the fight.
Yeah. But put that in context. Right. It was stomach to shut down the government.
Okay.
Because it really was. Yeah. This is what was going on at this point. They had shoved it in at the last minute.
Was that the right decision?
It's a tough one.
It's a tough one.
Let me put it this way. I was ready to fight it all the way. But we didn't have the votes to shut down the government over this provision because Ted Cruz had just shut down the government. And we had seen what happens. It costs billions of dollars to shut down the federal government. And ultimately, those costs are borne by hardworking families. So you get caught between swallowing a budget that has a poison pill in it and saying, no, we got to stand up, stand firm, and fight back. But I will tell you one good thing that came out of that. After that, and after we raised a big enough stink about it nationally, we shifted, the Democrats did, and went forward on the next budget negotiations and every budget negotiation since then, describing it as no poison pills.
Yeah,
and at least so far, we've been able to keep out this kind of Dodd-Frank, let's blow another hole in the regulations to let big banks do whatever they want and put the rest of us at risk. We've been able to hold that off pretty aggressively.
I've got